4:18 a.m. local time. Darkness over the Lut Desert, 20 miles northeast of Shahdad, Iran. A barren landscape of salt flats and rock ridges, where temperatures hit 120 degrees in daylight and the nearest Iranian military base sits just 30 kilometers south. But beneath this empty terrain, hidden inside a mountain foothill, lies something the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps thought was invisible: an underground fuel depot. 40 million gallons of refined diesel and aviation fuel, enough to sustain mechanized divisions, missile units, and drone squadrons for 6 months of continuous combat. The Iranians built it here because they believed no one could reach it. Too far from the coast, too deep underground, too heavily defended. They were wrong. At 4:19, 3 MH-60M Black Hawks dropped below radar horizon, a flying nap of the earth at just 50 feet above the desert floor. Their rotors kick up plumes of dust visible only to satellites 200 miles above. Inside the lead aircraft, call sign Razor 1, 15 Rangers from B Company, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, sit with their backs against the fuselage. Each man carries an M4A1 carbine, 300 rounds of 5.56 4M67 fragmentation grenades, and a breaching charge. Combat load pushes 80 pounds per man. They have been airborne for 2 hours, refueled once from a MC-13OJ over southern Iraq, and now they are 30 seconds from the infill point. At 4:20, the Black Hawks flare hard, kicking up a wall of dust that engulfs the landing zone, a wadi bed, dry for 200 years, carved into the approach to the mountain. The pilots set the wheels down for exactly 4 seconds. Its Rangers pour out, 22 men from 3 aircraft in a staggered formation, not one word spoken. Night vision goggles amplify starlight into a green-tinted world where every shadow hides a threat. The rotors whip away into the dark, leaving only the sound of boots on compacted salt and the distant hum of Iranian generators. The depot entrance sits 500 meters ahead, a reinforced concrete blast door 12 feet tall set directly into the rock face. Above it, 2 machine gun nests carved into the mountainside, each with a heavy PKM and a gunner who rotates every 2 hours. Infrared cameras sweep the approach on an automated pattern. Every 30 seconds, a thermal lens pans across the wadi. The Rangers know the timing. They have studied it for 3 weeks on full-scale replicas built in the Nevada desert. At 4:22, the lead squad reaches the first cover position, a low rock ridge 90 meters from the blast door. Sergeant First Class Michael Vance, a 32-year-old from Texas with 4 deployments to Syria and 2 to Afghanistan, signals a halt with a closed fist. His team drops prone. Through his PVS-31 night optics, he watches the thermal camera complete its sweep. The lens passes over their position. Nothing. The heat from their bodies is masked by the cool rock and the ambient desert temperature, still holding at 80 degrees. But the margin is thin. The camera will return in 28 seconds. Vance gestures to his breacher, Specialist David Kim. Kim crawls forward, carrying a 40-pound shaped charge designed to defeat hardened aircraft shelters. The explosive is molded to fit the exact dimensions of the blast door. In a detail pulled from satellite imagery and human intelligence provided by a source inside the Iranian construction crew 6 months earlier, Kim reaches the door at 4:24. He places the charge against the seam where the door meets the rock. A magnetic clamp holds it in place, a 15-second fuse. At 4:24 and 30 seconds, the thermal camera begins its return sweep. Kim is still exposed. He has 4 seconds to clear the blast radius. He sprints low, boots scraping against loose stone. The camera captures a flash of movement, but the automatic threat detection system requires 2 consecutive frames to trigger an alarm. Kim dives behind the ridge at 4:24 and 34 seconds. 1 frame. Not enough. Vance signals detonation. The shaped charge fires with a crack that splits the night. Just a focused jet of molten copper punching through 8 inches of reinforced concrete and steel rebar. The blast door shears inward, landing on the other side with a sound like a collapsing building. Inside the tunnel, emergency lights flicker on, and then the alarms begin. At 4:25, the Iranian security response activates. The depot is manned by a 60-man guard force from the IRGC's 101st Battalion, split across 4 levels of the underground facility. Their primary duty is asset protection, not combat against a peer enemy. But they have training, night vision of their own, and the advantage of interior lines. Level 1, the Vehicle Maintenance Bay, holds 12 Zu-23 anti-aircraft guns mounted on technical trucks, each capable of firing 240 rounds per minute. Those guns cannot depress low enough to engage the tunnel entrance, but the IRGC guards can, and they are already moving. At 4:26, Razor 1 enters the tunnel. The breach team moves first, 2 Rangers with M4s raised, sweeping left and right. The tunnel is wider than expected, 20 feet across, with overhead conduit pipes carrying fuel and electrical lines. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead, damaged by the blast. The emergency backup system kicks in, red lighting that turns the concrete walls the color of blood. Vance pushes his squad forward. They need to reach level 3, where the main fuel pumps and control room are located. But between them and that objective are 60 armed guards, multiple choke points, and a blast door on level 2 that will take another charge to defeat. First contact comes at 4:27. 50 meters inside the tunnel, a 3-man IRGC patrol rounds a corner, rifles raised. They are not expecting to see Americans. The lead Iranian, a sergeant with a thick beard and an AK-103 slung across his chest, freezes for a full second. That second costs him everything. The lead ranger, Corporal James Reyes, fires a 3-round burst into the Iranian's center mass. The other 2 GC soldiers return fire, bullets ricocheting off concrete, sending chips of rock flying. 1 round impacts a ranger's plate carrier, stopping dead but driving the air from his lungs. He stays on his feet. Return fire drops both Iranians in under 2 seconds. The tunnel goes quiet except for the ringing in everyone's ears, but the gunfire tells the rest of the garrison exactly where the breach occurred. At 4:28, the IRGC commander, a major named Hassan Kiani, makes a tactical decision from his command post on level 3. Instead of reinforcing the tunnel entrance, he pulls his forces back to level 2 and level 3, creating a defensive shell around the control room. He orders the level 1 blast door sealed. That door, 6 inches of steel, drops into place at 4:29, cutting off the maintenance bay and the Zu-23 guns. The Rangers are now inside a concrete tube with only one way forward. Vance calls for the second breacher. Private First Class Marcus Webb, carrying a linear cutting charge, moves to the level 2 blast door at 4:30. This one is smaller, 8 feet tall, but reinforced with cross-bracing designed to withstand a 500-pound bomb. Webb places the charge across the locking mechanism. Behind the door, the Rangers can hear movement. Boots on metal grating, shouted commands in Farsi, the clatter of weapons being readied. The Iranians know they are coming. They are setting up an ambush on the other side. The charge detonates at 4:31. The door blows inward, flipping end over end into the level 2 corridor. And then the world turns into a kill box. 4 IRGC machine guns open fire from behind stacked sandbags 50 feet down the corridor. PKM light machine guns, firing 7.62 by 54R rounds that punch through concrete and body armor alike. The Rangers hit the deck, returning fire from prone positions, but the corridor offers no cover, only bare walls and the occasional steel support beam. Rounds snap past heads, chip off the ceiling, send sparks flying where they hit metal conduit. Corporal Reyes takes a round to the thigh. The bullet passes through muscle, while missing the femoral artery by less than an inch. He goes down, still firing, still screaming orders. 2 Rangers grab his plate carrier and drag him back behind the lip of the blast door threshold. Blood pools on the concrete. A medic slaps a tourniquet high on Reyes's leg, cranks it tight, stops the bleeding. At 4:33, Vance realizes frontal assault is suicide. He calls for a fragmentation grenade volley. 3 Rangers pull pins, count 2 seconds, and lob M67s down the corridor. The grenades bounce off walls, land among the sandbags, and detonate with overlapping concussions that shred the machine gun positions. The firing stops. Vance leads the rush, M4 on full auto, firing as he moves past the shredded sandbags, past bodies and broken weapons, past the acrid smell of burned powder and blood. Level 2 opens into a fuel transfer station. Massive pipes, 18 inches in diameter, carry aviation fuel from storage bladders on level 3 up to surface loading points. Pressure gauges and valves line the walls. The Iranians have left 3 guards to defend this point, but they break under the assault, 2 shot, 1 fleeing down a stairwell toward level 3. Vance does not pursue. He knows what is waiting below. At 4:36, the Rangers regroup at the level 2 to level 3 access point. A spiral staircase, metal grating, descending into darkness. Below, the sounds of prepared defenses, heavy weapons being positioned, the hum of the main fuel pumps. Intelligence said Level 3 held 40 guards at full strength. Now, with casualties from the earlier fights, the number is closer to 30. But 30 defenders in a prepared position, with interlocking fields of fire, against a Ranger force that has already taken one casualty and burned through 20% of its ammunition. Vance splits his force. 8 men under Lieutenant Mark Henderson will descend the staircase and draw the Iranian fire. The remaining 12, including Vance, will use a maintenance ladder on the far side of Level 2, descending into the fuel storage bay itself, bypassing the main defensive line. It is a gamble. The maintenance ladder leads to a catwalk suspended above the fuel bladders, with no cover and no concealment. If the Iranians see them, they will be cut down from 3 directions. At 4:38, Henderson begins his descent. His boots hit the metal stairs, each step a ringing announcement of his position. Below, the IRGC opens fire. Boz's tracers streak upward, ricocheting off the spiral stairs, forcing Henderson's team to hug the walls. They return fire downward, the muzzle flashes illuminating the cavernous space of Level 3, a 100-foot-wide chamber carved from solid rock, filled with 8 massive rubber fuel bladders, each holding 5 million gallons. The control room sits on a raised platform at the far end, behind bulletproof glass. Henderson's firefight pins the Iranians in place. They cannot look away from the staircase without exposing themselves to his squad's accurate fire. Vance sees his window. He climbs the maintenance ladder, 12 men following, weapons slung across their backs for the ascent. At the top, the catwalk, 70 feet of grated steel suspended directly above the fuel bladders. Vance leads the way, boots silent on the metal, moving fast. Below him, the rubber bladders bulge with fuel, their surfaces slick, their seams under constant pressure. At 4:41, an Iranian guard on the control room platform looks up. He sees the Americans on the catwalk. He shouts a warning. A machine gun swings upward, but Vance is already firing. A 3-round burst that drops the gunner before he can pull the trigger. The element of surprise is gone. Iranians pivot from the staircase fight to engage the catwalk. Rounds tear through the grated floor, sparks showering down onto the fuel bladders. A fuel line is struck, pressurized aviation fuel spraying upward in a fine mist that coats the catwalk and the Rangers on it. Vance knows the danger. One spark, one round that generates enough heat, and the mist will ignite. The entire chamber will become an inferno. Yet there will be no survivors. He pushes harder, running along the catwalk, his squad behind him, rounds snapping past, the fuel mist covering everything in a flammable haze. At 4:43, they reach the control room platform. Vance kicks in the door. Inside, Major Kiani reaches for his sidearm. He does not get the chance. 2 rounds to the chest drop him before his hand touches the grip. The control room is secured in 4 seconds. Vance's demolition specialist, Sergeant Thomas O'Brien, kneels at the main fuel pump control panel. He pulls a tablet from his pack, plugs it into the system via a cable acquired through black market channels 6 months ago. The interface is clunky, Farsi language, but O'Brien navigates it by muscle memory from months of training. At 4:45, he accesses the pump overpressure system. And if the depot is designed to shut down automatically if pressure exceeds safe limits, preventing catastrophic failure. O'Brien reverses that logic. He commands the pumps to maximum output, forcing fuel from the bladders into sealed lines with nowhere to go. Pressure gauges spike into the red. Warning alarms blare throughout the facility. On the catwalk below, the fuel mist grows thicker as pressure relief valves blow. At 4:47, O'Brien arms the secondary charges. 40 pounds of C4, placed on the main fuel manifold during the approach, wired to a dual redundant detonator. The Rangers begin their exfiltration, moving back along the catwalk, through Level 2 toward the breached entrance. The Iranians, leaderless and disorganized, do not pursue. They are too busy trying to shut down the pumps, too focused on preventing the inevitable. At 4:50, the Rangers clear the tunnel entrance. They call for extraction. 2 MH-60M Black Hawk, orbiting 10 miles to the east, light up their transponders and race toward the landing zone. The Rangers run for the wadi, dragging Reyes, the wounded corporal, between them. They reach the rock ridge at 4:52. The Black Hawks are 2 minutes out. At 4:53, O'Brien triggers the detonator. The C4 explodes, ripping through the fuel manifold, igniting the pressurized fuel mist. The initial fireball expands outward, consuming everything in level 3. The fuel bladders rupture, 40 million gallons igniting in a chain reaction that turns solid rock into a pressure vessel. The explosion travels up the tunnel, a wall of flame and overpressure moving at 3,000 feet per second. The blast door, already weakened, blows outward. Yet a steel disc tumbling end over end into the desert. The ground shakes. The shockwave hits the Rangers at the wadi, throwing them to the ground, filling their ears with a sound like the world ending. Above them, a column of fire rises 500 feet into the night sky, visible from 30 miles away. The mountain itself cracks, fissures spreading across its face, rock slides bearing what remains of the tunnel entrance. At 4:55, the Black Hawks touch down. Rangers board in seconds, the wounded loaded first, then the rest, weapons still hot, ears still ringing. The aircraft lift off, banking hard to the east, leaving behind a burning mountain and 60 Iranian casualties, 22 confirmed killed, 38 wounded, the survivors emerging from secondary exits to find their depot destroyed. At 5:10, the mission package closes. 40 million gallons of fuel destroyed. A strategic asset that took 4 years and an estimated $200 million to build, gone in 90 minutes. The Iranian military loses 60% of its stored fuel reserves for the southern theater, a logistical gap that will take at least 18 months to fill. The Rangers lose 1 man seriously wounded. No fatalities, no prisoners, no equipment left behind. At 5:12, the Black Hawks cross the Iraqi border. Inside the cabin, Vance pulls off his helmet, wipes fuel residue from his face, and looks at the men around him. No one speaks. No one needs to. The mountain is still burning behind them, a beacon visible for 100 miles, a message written in fire that will be read in Tehran, in Washington, and in every capital that watches the balance of power shift. At the Iranian underground fuel depot, located, breached, destroyed, and the Rangers walked away.